and had a little altercation with the coach and decided that I didn't want to play on that team any longer and needed to pick up a physical education class, and golf was the next thing on the list. So I started taking that class and attending, and I got bit by the bug.
And how long was it before you actually became a professional?
I turned professional when I was 22 years old, right out of college, and have never looked back.
How do you turn professional as a golfer?
Well, basically you put up your entry fee and play for prize money.
And you win?
If you're good, you can, yes.
Where did that opportunity lead you after you became a professional golfer?
Well, I was quite fortunate in the fact that I was able to travel through many countries throughout the world playing golf, doing something that I enjoyed doing and making a salary at it. It's great fun.
Eventually, you ended up training some other professional golfers, right, or some other accomplished golfers that were World Cup golfers, apparently, with the Chilean World Cup teams for men's and women's.
That's correct. And how that came about is I was playing on the South American tour, and Chile was one of the stops that we were at, and I just happened to make some friends, and they had asked, because I do speak Spanish, they had asked me to give some demonstrations for the members of the clubs that we were playing at, and somebody approached me and said, hey, you know what, we would like to learn more about your strategies on playing golf, and I would be interested in coming down and spending some time in Santiago to teach. And so I took them up on their offer.
Kirk, you're quite good at Spanish. I'm surprised, actually, because I never would have known how well you speak Spanish. How did you learn to speak Spanish so well?
Well, I took 2 years in high school and learned basically tourist Spanish. And then when I took the job in Santiago, Chile, I was forced to actually learn Spanish to become fluent because I needed to communicate with my students and members of the club. And the only way that I could do that was to take some private classes for a couple of weeks. Then everything just was in Spanish. I had to communicate with people. I went to the market to ride a taxi. I had to be able to get where I was going and get what I needed.
When you went to Chile, did you know any English-speaking people?
I didn't. There was one gentleman by the name of Mr. Brown. That's the only way I knew him. And he spoke English. He was an American whose family had lived in Chile for many, many years. When I got to the club, I just thought that I would rely on Mr. Brown and that everyone would speak English, but he was only there for about 2 weeks, and then he came back to the United States. Remember that when I went there in June, it's in the beginning of their winter time there. And so he was coming to Florida to spend his summer in Florida in the warm weather.
So when you're teaching people how to play golf, do you find that you're getting more out of teaching technique or more out of teaching, because golf seems to be a very mental game, do you find that people get more out of how to control their mental game or how to control the technique associated with playing golf?
Well, one of the interesting things about golf is that when you're first learning, obviously you have to learn the techniques, and once you've mastered that part, then it becomes the mastery of the mind. And in order to do that, I was able to spend time with different sports psychologists through my playing career, and was able to transmit that information to the teams in Chile to assist them in becoming better golfers. Going into the World Cup, they'd never finished in the top 25. After some work with them and their hard work, they were actually finished 9th.
So give me an example of how some of your training improved the team's ability to play better.
Well, we sat down and I used some techniques that I had learned, basically what are called deep breathing techniques, where you learn to breathe from the belly, and then through individual muscle relaxation techniques, where, again, accompanied with the breathing exercises, we tighten and release tension in specific muscle groups and all the way through the body. And at that point, the mind becomes, once you become totally relaxed, your mind becomes more open to accepting different ideas and visualization. And visualization is a very key factor in mastering golf. How I learned about the mind, specifically what intrigued me, I guess, the most about learning how important the mind game is just in all aspects. I'd heard a story of a gentleman who was a prisoner of war in Vietnam and was confined into a very, very small area. I believe it was a 3x3 type cage, if you call it that. The only way that he was able to keep his sanity was to play golf mentally every day. And once he was released at the end of the war, he then, a couple months later, went to play in a golf tournament and shot exactly to his handicap. People were amazed, and they said, "How is that possible?" And he said, I never missed a day playing golf. They said, "How did you do that in a 3x3 cage?" and he professed that he did it mentally. And so that kind of got my mind open to think, wow, is that really possible? And so I began searching out to find out how that works.
You used some of those techniques with some of the people that you were training.
Yes.
How did it make a difference?
Well, because once you learn how to breathe properly, you can use that breathing technique at any time, anywhere you'd like. So when your blood begins to boil or you begin to feel nervous or whatever, the easiest way to combat that is to get yourself into a peaceful state of mind. And by breathing properly, learning the proper breathing techniques, you're able to calm your heart rate down, your breathing down. Your mind reacts, your body reacts much easier to the commands from the mind. Typically what happens is people will have some kind of negative answer or negative conversation in their mind while they're performing. And through breathing and with positive reinforcement, then those things kind of go by the wayside and they get out of their own way, so to speak.
You use those techniques primarily on the tee box, on the fairway, on the green?
Actually, throughout the whole round.
Really?
So it starts prior to the round. For instance, in my case, what I would do is I would go in and go through my warm-up routine, and 20 minutes before my tee time, I would find a quiet, peaceful place and lay down on the ground and begin my belly breathing technique, just to free my mind of any possible tensions that I had, any nervousness that I might have. What would happen is, after I did my muscle relaxation techniques, the whole world seemed to slow down. And when it goes slower, it seems to be less mistakes made.
How long has it been since you played in your last professional tournament?
I retired from playing professional golf in the year 2000. However, I have just regained my amateur status back, which now allows me to play as an amateur. I've played a couple of events so far, and to be honest with you, I haven't fared so well. Not because of my ability, it's really because of my lack of sticking to the basics and going back through the things that made me successful as a professional.
Your home course is the San Clemente Municipal Course.
Yes, it is.
And you at one time held the course record there?
That is correct. Twice, actually. In 1994, I shot 64, which was a brand new record. A funny story about that is I shot 64 and lost $8. My partners that day were so excited about me playing well, they forgot what they were doing, and cost me a little bit of money, but it went down in the record books. And then 2 years later, again, I was playing with some friends and happened to shoot 10 under par.
So what would you consider your best round of golf?
Well, my lowest score in golf is 10 under par, which is a 62, and that was just in playing with my dad and some friends on a Saturday at San Clemente Golf Course. In competition, my lowest rounds are 65, of which I completed in for the Asian Tour qualifying. After being 14 shots behind after the first round, I was able to end up winning the tournament by shooting back-to-back 65s on the weekend that catapulted me to the lead.
So now that you have your amateur status, what's your goal? Are you going to just play tournaments? Do you want to become a professional again?
No, I would like to play. I enjoy playing competitively. At this point, I'm not sure about going back in professionally. I am 49. 50 is the minimum age that you can be to play the PGA Senior Tour. I'm not sure that I'm there yet because it does take a great deal of time to prepare for those kinds of things. So right now I'm just kind of enjoying the amateur side.
Interesting, Kirk. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks for your input on the mortgage side of things, too. Really appreciate that. When's your next tournament?
Actually, it'll be in October. I'm going to play the Coronado City Championships, and then the following week I'll be playing at my home course in San Clemente for the San Clemente City Championship, something I haven't done since I was about 18 years old.
Thanks again for joining us, Kirk.
Thank you, Jim, for having me.
Over the next week, I'm hoping that rates will stay their course. I'm cautiously optimistic about this. We need rates to fall back into a trend, and lately they just haven't been in any type of trend. They've been up and down and all over the place. I'm actually looking forward to this month being done, so hopefully we can move into some rate stability going into September. If Monday's rates stay about the same as they were this week, it's going to be a good week next week. That being said, you really want to get into this ready position to lock that we talked about earlier on in the show. That way, when the rates hit your target or you're listening to the news in the morning or something that triggers your desire to lock that rate, you can make the phone call to your loan originator and say, hey, lock my rate. In order to do that, you need to get your paycheck stubs ready. That means your most recent 30 days pay stubs, your most recent bank statements, your W-2 forms, your tax returns, especially tax returns when you're self-employed or you own other real estate. Get that stuff over to your loan originator. Have them scrub it so that your loan file is now in an underwritable form. That way, when you make your phone call, the loan originator can actually lock your loan instantaneously right there and then upload your information to the lender, and the loan can get underwritten very quickly. Our guest next week is Brian Alper. He's an account executive for Equity Title Company, and he's an avid local surfer. Please join us when we speak with Brian next week. That's going to be a good show. Our featured property for the week is brought to us by Bryn DeBeikis with Keller Williams Newport Estates. Again, this property is open house tomorrow, Sunday, from 12 to 5 p.m. This coveted Peninsula Point home is a contemporary architectural masterpiece. This 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home is in a premier corner location, boasting both ocean and bay views from the 600-square-foot third-floor viewing deck with outdoor kitchen. This property, built in 1992, was carefully designed using the finest finishes, limestone, and granite. A main floor master suite with a romantic fireplace opens to a private patio. The master bath has a step-down shower and state-of-the-art steam bath and towel warmers. Upstairs living boasts dramatic 3-story windows for both bay and ocean views. The property is located at 501 J Street in Newport Beach. You can also get all this information, contact the agent, and look at photos of the property on our Facebook page at facebook.com/SwiftLoans. If you're a realtor or you know one who'd like their listing featured on our show, please send an email to radio@jimcreamer.com. Also, post your questions on the Facebook page, facebook.com/SwiftLoans, or send me an email to radio@jimcreamer.com. We will answer every question, and if we use your question on the air next week, we'll send you something nice from one of our local businesses here in the Newport Mesa area. Thanks again to our guest, Kirk Rose, for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed our show. My name is Jim Creamer. I'm here to help you make a better decision when it comes to purchasing or financing your home. So tune in next week here at 8 a.m. for Mortgage Savvy Radio. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Mortgage Savvy Radio is brought to you by Swift Loan Funding. You'll find them online at swiftloanfunding.com and on their Facebook site at facebook.com/SwiftLoans. Be sure to tune in next Saturday morning at 8 a.m. for Jim Creamer's Mortgage Savvy Radio, right here on KOCI.